Deep Rock Galactic is a game about collecting samples, fighting bugs, and rocking out to a godlike soundtrack. Wait a minute. Deep Rock Galactic is a game about mining dirt, fighting bugs, and rocking out to a godlike soundtrack. And I firmly believe that it has the best, most well-crafted gameplay loop of any shooter I have ever played. It's so good that the first 100 hours I played of this game all happened in a single fucking week. An addictive personality is classified as... Look, I know that if you've clicked on a video with this kind of title, there's a high probability that you already know what a gameplay loop is, but it would really bother me if I didn't cover it, so let's go ahead and do that now. In very basic terms, the idea of a gameplay loop is that each and every game you play only really has about 10 to 30 seconds of fun that can be had by the player, and that fun happens over and over again until the end of the game. 30 seconds of gameplay, looped. Gameplay loop. In the case of shooters, our gameplay loop is pretty obvious. We have a gun, we have enemies, we shoot the enemies, we get to the end of the level. This is how every shooter functions. So, if there's only 30 seconds of gameplay that can be had, then it is the job of developers to figure out how to iterate and contextualize their loop in different ways in order to stand out from the rest, because trust me, there's a lot of shooters out there. One of the ways in which you can stand out is simply presentation, and Deep Rock Galactic, or DRG, has done incredibly well in that department. Firstly, you play as dwarves. In space. Dwarves mine, so they're now mining in space. This may seem simple, but trust me, this does wonders for the overall presentation, humor, and the gameplay loop. When you first enter Space Reg 17 after a short tutorial mission, you'll see a bunch of consoles, some of which you can interact with, and some of which you're going to need to unlock. You can walk anywhere within the confines of the rig, messing with your friends, checking on upgrades, your loadout, etc. Eventually, you'll want to actually play the game that you spent money on, so you'll waddle your stubby legs on over to the missions terminal, select a mission, get in the hell pod, drop pod, and drop in.
My balls.
Fuzzy dice.
Rock and stone.
If you don't rock and
forever.
stone, you ain't coming home.
Dwarves mine, they're now in space, they're mining in space on an alien planet. Named, Hoxton.
Wanker.
Depending on what mission you select and where you select it, you'll have a number of different objectives, each with their own challenges or lack thereof. All of them are pretty simple, whether it's just finding a certain amount of whatever the hell Morkite is, or just waiting for Doretta to do her job. Whatever it is, you're typically searching for a specific resource that you shove inside of a box until you hit the quota. After which, you can extract or finish your side objective, assuming you haven't already, in order to make some extra cash. And with that extra cash, you can now buy upgrades!
Upgrades, people! Upgrades!
Upgrades and/or unlocks are one of the best things that developers can do in order to spice up the gameplay loop and make their game more exciting. DRG has tons of upgrades, and I absolutely adore their system. Each weapon can equip 5 upgrades, as well as an overclock, and each upgrade slot has a set of 2 to 3 upgrades that you can choose from. This system forces the player to make a choice, such as having a larger magazine so you reload less, or reloading faster with just the standard magazine. This kind of choice, in my opinion, is much better, or at least more interesting, than a system that allows you to equip all upgrades at once. DRG also allows players to switch upgrades out once you buy multiple in the same slot, giving the player the opportunity to experiment and figure out what they like and how they want their gun to function. It also gives them the opportunity to flame other people's builds on Reddit. You unlock the ability to purchase these upgrades by firstly leveling up your dwarf. You can play as one of 4 classes, and XP that you earn is only earned on that dwarf, so if you want to unlock everything, you gotta play as everything. Once you reach a certain level, you are granted the ability to purchase upgrades in a given slot with both credits and resources. Once you promote a dwarf, which is essentially this game's version of a prestige system, you also unlock the ability to equip an overclock, which can either grant small buffs, some larger buffs with some downsides to compensate, or completely change how a weapon functions. And occasionally, the devs decided to smoke some red sugar and in their infinite wisdom will allow you to fucking boomstick jump.
Ain't nothing like a phone, gimme.
Let's go.
Dwarves mine. They're now in space. They're mining in space on an alien planet to get resources in order to acquire upgrades so they can do their job better. The simple fact that we are mining our own resources is what makes DRG feel so well crafted. The objective is already to mine, and getting upgrades is essentially a side objective, but makes the act of exploration incredibly rewarding. Every mission that you complete, especially in the early game, gets you closer and closer to an upgrade, allowing you to have more fun with better equipment or even different equipment entirely. Assignments and challenges are another form of acquiring equipment. Completing challenges gives you perk points, allowing you to purchase perks and then upgrade those perks. Perks can be anything from a little speed boost to ignoring the fact that you went down entirely and single-handedly saving the entire mission. Assignments, on the other hand, require that you complete a specified set of missions in order to unlock whatever that assignment unlocks, whether it's a new difficulty or a new weapon. Drac 25 Plasma Carbine, my beloved. These are both great systems, as they don't necessarily require you to change what you were doing. Challenges especially will just get done passively, but you can actively chase certain ones in cases where that would be more efficient. Assignments do require you to play certain mission types that it selects for you, and sure, maybe you don't want to play that one right now, but I see this as a system that works to move new players along. If a new player walks up to the terminal and sees this, they're not going to understand any of the mission types or what these modifiers mean and what exactly the rewards are just yet. Assignments can give them that push that some of them will need while they are still in their learning phase of the game. So, we have a bunch of upgrades in order to do our job better, but there's a reason that we were given guns and not just our pickaxe. You may notice that your mining has caused some of the inhabitants to awake. Sorry, but capitalism has dictated that you have no money. Stand by for eviction. There are many variations of enemies, and you are tasked with reducing the variations of enemies. Drac 25 Plasma Carbine, my beloved. Dwarves mine. They're now in space. They're mining in space on an alien planet to get resources in order to acquire upgrades so they can do their job better, and the local fauna don't like any of that. So we shoot them. This fully describes our gameplay loop in DRG. However, there is still one thing I haven't mentioned, and that is the resupply. This orange box, this one little thing, is what really ties Deep Rock Galactic's gameplay loop together for me and makes it absolutely perfect. In any given mission, you are going to run out of ammo unless you're playing point extraction. Resource management exists in plenty of games, whether it's ammo, health, or other utilities that the player has. You often have a finite amount available at any given time and need to use your resources wisely until you are able to get more. Helldivers 2 takes the cooldown approach to its resupply system. You mark a location to call down a pod with 4 boxes that will each resupply 50% of everything. Each time you call in a resupply, you have to wait 2.5 minutes for another one, so make those stims count. This system works fine, however, it is just very passive, outside of course, scavenging as well as the supply pack. Cooldowns are inherently passive, and you kinda just have to wait and can't really interact with it to make it cool down faster. This is fine, it's a perfectly serviceable system, but Deep Rock Galactic's more active system is much more engaging and, in my opinion, much more fun. Again, nothing wrong with Helldivers 2 or cooldowns in general, but being more active in a system will always be more interesting to me. In DRG, you mark a location to call down a pod with 4 boxes that will each resupply 50% of everything. However, instead of a cooldown, there actually is no cooldown on resupplies in this game. Each resupply will instead cost you 80 nitra. Nitra is a red, triangular resource that you will find in caves throughout every single mission that you play. And unlike other resources, you don't collect Nitra to store it in an inventory to use for upgrades later. Instead, this is something that you spend within the mission that you find it, and it doesn't carry over to other missions if you don't spend it. 80 Nitra grants you the ability to call in a resupply for the team, and this active system of resupplying your ammo is what completes the gameplay loop and, to me, makes it absolutely perfect. Dwarves mine. They're now in space. They're mining in space on an alien planet to get resources in order to acquire upgrades so they can do their job better. The local fauna don't like any of that, so we shoot them, and we spend the resources we find within the mission to resupply our bullets when we run out. That is the full, perfect gameplay loop of Deep Rock Galactic. This one resource and method of resupply is honestly ingenious. The point of the game already is to explore caves and mine, so why not have the players mine the resources that they are going to use to have fun shooting bugs? Another thing that makes the system so engaging is that swarms in this game cannot be avoided. Swarms are inevitable and they will happen. Enemies in this game spawn in waves, and each wave is either on a timer or set to spawn in under certain conditions, such as reaching a certain threshold of mission completion. There will also be a permanent wave whenever extraction is called in. This further incentivizes the players to be active and to look for nitra to ensure that they will be stocked up when they need to be. This is a perfectly seamless and believable system that works excellently with the rest of the game. With this system, the devs managed to implement both short-term and long-term rewards for mining, which is just the entire game pretty much. The short-term reward for exploring the caves and being methodical whilst also being efficient is more supplies to shoot stuff with, which is satisfying for its own reasons that I don't have time to get into in this video, but shooting is something that players obviously enjoy doing, and the long-term goals are everything else that I mentioned earlier. I genuinely don't know if it's even possible for me to overstate how much I love this system. It works perfectly, amazingly, flawlessly, all the positive adjectives I can throw into a word salad this system is. And that is why I think Deep Rock Galactic has perhaps the best gameplay loop ever crafted. Oh yeah, how could I forget? You can now throw it back with your friends. Woo! Best game ever crafted! That's what I'm talking about! Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. As for why my voice sounded different in that one area and now, I'm currently in my new apartment at college and it's just a much different environment. I'm doing my best to like dampen sound and stuff and I'm really trying to focus on that, but it's just hard, dude. Anyways, I also wanted to have this video out last week, but last week was move-in week, so I didn't really have a whole ton of time to work on this. But going forward, 2-week upload schedule. I'm gonna try my hardest. Anyways, have a nice day. I'll see you later.